Welcome back to the Proximity is Power podcast. This is episode 7, I want to say. I got my good friend here, Tosh Mackintosh, the one and only. And Tosh, thanks for coming on today.
Happy to do it.
Freaking pumped to have you.
Yeah.
I honestly, I was thinking about it, and like out of all the people in my life, like Tosh has definitely been top 3 most influential on me and my journey and like the lessons and everything. So I could not be more excited about
Appreciate
today's
it.
episode.
We've had some good times, Gage.
Yeah.
You've been good for me too.
Some bad times, but
mostly good.
Mostly good. But yeah, Tosh, so many good lessons, like so many takeaways from working with you at Aptive for five years, and like, yeah, my life trajectory totally changed from like meeting Tosh.
Well, I remember I was the first guy that did an interview with you, at least to my knowledge, in summer sales. You were working at a call center, and
I was.
We're just this little punk high school kid. But you were selling satellite in the call center, and we were able to connect on that since I had sold satellite before.
Yeah, that's right. And then you switched to Aptive. I had no chance in that meeting.
No, that's you were coming right in my wheelhouse. And then I remember traveling out there, and you were doing a little short high school summer, and you had a real solid summer. But the big kind of Gage moment I remember is after your first summer, where you had a solid first summer, but I was telling you, Gage, like, I see something in you. Yeah. You could be way better than this.
100%.
And I feel like it was a good moment where you really took that and ran with it.
Dude, I thank you, first of all. But like, yeah, it's so important when you're first starting anything to have like leaders that believe in you. And you 1000% like believed in me. And like, you believed in me more than I believed in myself. And like, you saw who I could be like better than I could at the time. And that was like such a pivotal, like throughout the whole career, like such a pivotal thing for me to know that people behind me like believe in me and like know I can go do great things, you know?
No, yeah. No, and then you went out there and that next summer did top 1% in the industry sort of a thing. So
yeah, led by the one and only Tosh Mackintosh, baby. Yeah. I honestly, like, I'm so blessed and lucky because, yeah, just like the people I met on my journey, like, have totally shaped everything. So, yeah, like, I'd say you were definitely one of the ones that even inspired the podcast. So I appreciate you hopping on.
Happy to be here.
It's gonna be fun. But going into this, like, I want you guys all to kind of get to know Tosh on a little bit better of a level. So let's start with Tosh telling us about his background, where he grew up, story, childhood.
Yeah, I think I'd start with, so I grew up in Utah, just kind of different parts of Utah. I was born in Sandy, had some formidable years until 8th grade in South Jordan, moved to Lehigh for high school. So all kind of Utah areas, kind of more into my childhood. I'm the oldest of 7 kids. So there was a whole pack of us. And I think as the oldest, I felt, a lot of pressure. And I think that at times was hard, but I think in the end, it was really good for me to set a good example. And I was the one doing the most chores, or at least my parents were trying to get me to. And
yeah, that's how it goes.
Yeah. Huh? And also I grew up in a background that I think was really helpful for a hard work standpoint. Like, my dad owns a construction company, but not like a big fancy one, like a 1 crew, 3 workers and him in the grind every day, kind of construction guy. And that was really formidable for me to see my dad work really hard every day. And I'll try not to get emotional because, it was really good for me to see, like, he could work real hard, come home, work harder. And it really set a level of how hard someone could work. Yeah. And then at the same time, though, it also taught me I did not want to do construction. Yeah. Freaking hated it.
Manual labor was
doing that in the summers. It was like, holy crap, this sucks.
Yeah.
But I think it was good for me in a lot of ways. We also grew up in a little bit of a farm situation where we had horses and cows and goats and all sorts of animals that I was hauling hay. And so I kind of had that as a base that taught me hard work. The other thing I could throw in there is wrestling. Like wrestling was my main sport. Also really taught me hard work.
Yeah, we got to get into that a little bit more.
Yeah, we can dive into that here in a second. But I feel like that built a base, but it also showed me my dad's working his tail off. I think there's probably a smarter way to make money. And my dad was always, and it still is, like he's an incredible person to talk to. And when I got into sales, I said, hey, I have talent in this that's God-given and that I can work at, but I can also use the hard work principles that I've been taught to really kind of excel in both those areas.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like having a dad that you can look up to is just like a huge blessing. And I had the same thing. Like I just remember my dad never missed work like all growing up. And it was like even if he was sick, he was still showing up every day. And that's awesome that you have that same thing. And my dad always joked that he wished like we grew up on a farm because like he did. And that's like, that was his roots. But like, I guess the farm that we grew up in was him just making up jobs our entire life, like, you know, to teach work ethic. And it was the best blessing. So Tosh, back in high school, so you get into wrestling. Tell us more about that, because you were definitely in the top 1% at wrestling. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I feel like sometimes like sports intensity can have a generational effect. And what I mean by that is my dad was a talented wrestler, but he didn't take it very serious. Like he got really into skiing, and skiing was his number one in high school, and then wrestling. But then I think after high school, he had regrets on that. And so, and his older brother was the state champion and was like wrestled in college.
Oh, really?
And then they had kids, and my dad, I think, was like, hey, my kids are not going to make the same mistake I did. And wrestling was like part of our lives, hardcore, you know. From first grade on, I wrestled.
Wow, first grade you started. Wow.
Yeah, so I started wrestling in first grade, started getting real serious about it probably in fifth grade. And when I say real serious, like I mean that. Like I was wrestling basically year round besides football, where most people that are wrestlers, they'll wrestle for a few months out of the year. We were into it. And there's different styles of wrestling. And so there's the one that's in high school that's people call collegiate or folk style. And then there's the Olympic styles, freestyle and Greco-Roman's its full name. And so when the high school style's over, you can wrestle in those Olympic styles. And I did that year round. And
you're a beast. Did your dad kind of like force you into that, or was that like Tosh, maybe he forced you at first, but then you grew to love it, or what was that?
It kind of ebbed and flowed, to be honest. And I still battle with this, with knowing what's best for my kids.
As a parent, yeah. That would be...
Because I chose to wrestle. Like, my dad was like all about it.
Yeah.
But I remember I got a flyer in first grade that they just passed out to every kid. And I came home, and in my mind, I was thinking like WWF wrestling. But I came home as like a punk first grader, like, hey, I want to wrestle. My dad's like, yeah, let's do this. But then wrestling's freaking hard in that it's one-on-one. So there's no blaming your teammates.
Right.
Like no one loses a wrestling match and like, oh, I had a good game. Like that's not a thing.
Right.
Like if you lose, there's no one to pass that off on. It's all on you. And not only like, tennis is like that too. But if you lose in tennis, you didn't get like outmanned. Yeah. Like when you lose in wrestling, you got like out-owned as a human.
Interesting. Yeah.
And so it's really intense, and losses are hard. And so, like I tried to quit lots of times, but that wasn't an option. And there was some friction points. I would say it was mostly probably around 6th and 7th grade that my friends were going home and dinking around and playing, and I was going to practice.
Yeah.
But then
year round too. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's that. Yeah.
but he pushed through that, and it's like, no, we're not quitting. It wasn't an option.
Yeah.
And then when I got to high school, though, things clicked, and I started to, you kind of become friends with the guys on the team a lot. You start to see the success. And with anything, if you really work at it and you've got good coaches and good partners and people pushing you, like, there was a while there where in those different styles, like in Greco, I was the state champion in Greco 7 times in a row. And then there's bigger tournaments from there where, you know, all the Western, like 11 states have a big tournament called Western Regionals. So, you know, California, Arizona, you know, Alaska, Utah, all the Western states have a big tournament. And I won that multiple times. And so like, I was really into wrestling, and I took state in each of the different styles. It was really good for me. It wasn't all success.
Let's talk about your junior year. Yeah.
Yeah, let's go there. So funny, the style that most people know about, you know, is the collegiate or the high school folk style. That was my least favorite. But as a wrestler, like, you got to do that. Like, you can't be a wrestler and not do that style for your high school. And I was really good at it too. Like, to be real, I was ranked number 1. And I kind of let that get to my head, though. There's power rankings, and even across the different classifications. Like, I wrestled the number 1 guy in 4A, and I pinned him, and was feeling really good. And I was undefeated in Utah, was number 1. But in a lot of ways, if I look at a year that I slacked a little bit, it was that year. And it's not that I still would go to practice and do the things, but I wasn't pushing myself technically. After practice, I was never putting in anything extra. And so I'm ranked number 1, had beat almost everybody that was even in my classification, probably multiple times. But the state tournament comes in the semifinals. I'm against a guy that I had really whooped up on twice that year. And he had done his film. He wrestled a really technical, kind of a stalling match without getting really into things. As a Greco guy, like, I like to tie people up and do throws, and he would not tie up with me and was really like avoiding, but he did kind of get what I would call like a little bit of a cheap point, and then that changed the match. I ended up losing to him by 1, which was devastating. Came out of nowhere, won the rest of my matches to take 3rd, but 3rd was like, I was not supposed to take 3rd.
Yeah, you're supposed to be number 1.
And so that, I don't think I've ever cried harder in my life.
Really?
Like, it was devastating.
Dang.
And yeah, like, really, really bad. It freaking sucked. But it was good for me in that he was a junior and I was a junior. And so it really gave me something to kind of push for. And I think there's a couple things for this. That next year, I'm like, I'm not just going to do the minimum, go to practice. No, like, I would run after practice. Any optional practices, I was there. I was pushing myself technically with really adding different things to my game, so that couldn't happen again, so that someone couldn't just avoid my strengths, but that I had, and I really dove in. And then the other part of it is, my goal my junior year was just to take state. My goal my senior year is, I'm like, no, I want to dominate. I want to be the state's outstanding wrestler. It's an award that all the coaches vote on. And I'm like, that's my goal. And I wrote on my mirror, dominate. And I looked at that every day, and I put in extra time and really attacked my senior year with a very different focus. And really, there's a lot of pressure. Like, there's nothing after your senior year. Yeah, there's no next try.
Yeah.
And so pushed it. And as fate would have it, in the finals match, I was matched up at the finals at state against that same kid.
So awesome.
And went out there. And again, he was trying to do some of the same tactics he did before, but with some of the extra stuff and to dive into that, I worked a lot on wrestling off of one knee and doing some low shots because I'm tall. I'm really tall for a wrestler. And so wrestling off of one knee kind of brought my level down, which I could get some low, quick shots a lot. And that was something I didn't have in my repertoire the year before. So in that finals match, first period, we're wrestling. He's avoiding a little bit. I do the one knee thing. He's like an idiot, thinks he's going to like bulldoze me because he's like this short, like buff guy. And I'm this tall, skinny
Typical
guy.
wrestler, yeah.
Yeah. And so he comes charging into me thinking he's going to bowl me over, but that was like right into back to my original wheelhouse. So then I pop up and just use his momentum just to toss him.
You guys got to check out the video. Or do they got to search up on YouTube?
I think if they search Tosh Mackintosh on YouTube,
you got to watch it. It's freaking awesome.
And so I pinned him in the first round. So I took state. The other part of it though is that, so I pinned many matches throughout the tournament. In the finals, pinned my guy in the first period. So I had an incredible shot at being voted the state outstanding wrestler. The other part of the story, I wasn't. I didn't get voted that. But at the same time, it did teach me set really high goals, control what you can control. And then even if that doesn't happen, you still get something really good that you can be proud of. Totally. I think most people, and it's true for me, sometimes you fall short of your goals. So to get what I want, I got to set really high goals. And even if I fall short, I'm not happy that I didn't get it, but I'm a lot happier than if I would have set my goal down here.
Totally. And I think a lot of people like set those really high goals and then don't, consistently show up day in, day out. Like they promised themselves they were going to work harder. They're going to do extra sprints, extra practices, but then they don't. And then they for sure don't hit their goal. And they still like want to feel good about what they did. Like, but I think like that's a totally different mindset that you had of like, hey, I'm gonna like, here's my crazy goal. And like, I'm going to go do the work, and wherever the chips fall, they fall. And like, you can be really proud knowing that you left everything out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's too, there's a principle, and that we see it, but it's different when you feel it, that failure can be a great thing. And it can really, if you're right, you can hone failure and how bad that feels and how bad that sucks to really be someone that pushes to not be content again and to push yourself to not just do the minimum. And I've seen that. I learned that lesson then, but I've applied that in lots of things like that. Definitely in business, in sales, that when you get that pain of failure, you should actually kind of just soak in it and eat it up and remember this. And like, I never want to feel this again. And what am I going to do about it?
Totally. Huge opportunity, because you can only bounce. Like if you've hit rock bottom, you can really use that as an advantage and just jump as high as you can.
Correct.
There,
Correct.
Okay. So Tosh Mackintosh wins state senior year wrestling, everything you ever hoped and dreamed. And then what did you have an idea in high school of like what you want to do career wise?
Yeah and no. So I always knew that I loved talking to people and that I could be pretty convincing when I was trying to be. And so I remember like my business teacher, who was a baller, Mr. Kane, he was a multimillionaire who retired at 40 and then was bored. High school
teacher.
Okay. And then he was bored and just decided, hey, I'm going to go teach high school.
I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, no, awesome. And I'm so grateful. He changed my paradigm. I was from Lehigh when Lehigh was a cow town. And
still is.
Well, not really anymore.
Yeah, it's grown like crazy.
Yeah. Now it's a tech town. But when I was there, the median income was not that high, and my vision of what was possible. But anyway, Mr. Kane comes in, baller of a human, baller as a business guy, and really kind of raised our level of what was possible. But what I was getting at, I remember, as silly as this is, and it's just like a total just dumb like 15 or 16-year-old thought, but I went up to him after class and I'm like, hey, I think I want to be in sales. Should I get into real estate or cars? And he's like, he just kind of laughed at me and he's like, I think you'd be good at sales. He's like, but I don't think you need to decide that right now. Just like, just learn good principles now, and you can take what opportunities
come your way.
Yeah. But so I bring that up to your question that even at 15, I thought, hey, sales might be a
good avenue
path. But I was also tossing around. Like when I went to college, I was considering being a lawyer. I was considering being like, I really, like a lot of high schoolers, thought, hey, if I'm not a professional athlete, I should be a sports agent, And I had those kind of thoughts, but
so sales was on your radar
for sure.
And then, okay, so Tosh graduates from Lehigh High School, and what are you kind of thinking at that point?
So I always knew I was going to go on a mission. Went on a mission to London.
How was that?
Loved that. Like, absolutely loved it. Not in a lot of ways a hard place to go on a mission, but I had great people around me. I loved it. I loved the British people. I thought, again, I like talking to people. Like we did a lot of knocking. We did a lot of street contacting.
Was the mission hard for you?
No.
Not after wrestling since kindergarten.
Yeah, and I'm social. I'm confident. Like it wasn't hard. It was hard being away from friends and not chasing girls for 2 years. But like,
besides that,
I was fairly comfortable there. I mean, there was times it was hard, but overall, I don't think it was hard. It was a place that you had to work hard to have success, but at the same time, I loved that. And we can dive more into that if you want, but I came home and I came home absolutely a better person. It was an incredible experience for me. But then start college, and then life gets real, because all the way up to then, like, you have high school and then you have the mission, and then after that it's just real life.
Right.
And then and it's scary. You get home and all of a sudden, okay, I'm in real life now.
Yeah.
And I get home, got into BYU, and that was kind of the end of wrestling too. Like I had opportunities to wrestle in college, but the places that were really pursuing me were not really great educational or social prospect places. And so when I got into BYU, I'm like, that's a great education. I'm going to go there. Went there. And then what happened is my cousin was on the baseball team, but had decided he was going to get married and he had no money. So he decided he was going to do summer sales. And he talked to me and said, hey, Tosh, I'm going to go sell this summer. You should come with. And I said, no, like I've knocked enough doors.
Yeah.
I've been gone for 2 summers.
Yeah.
I want to wakeboard this summer.
Yes.
Like
hang out with your friends.
Yeah.
Chase girls.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then as the summer got closer, I realized that, hey, like the high school summers are a thing of the past. Like my friends are getting internships and jobs, and some of the girls are already married. Like, things are different now. And so then I went back to my cousin and was kind of asking him some questions. He's like, hey, why don't you come into a meeting? And anyway, I came into a meeting and got sold on, really what sold me is actually just, I feel like this happens a lot with good salespeople. I actually think it's a good technique to know if someone's going to be good, is he just asked me, he showed me the stats and the averages. And he's like, how do you think you would do? Would you be average? Would you be And I'm like, no, I'd be above average for sure, like, and then he's like, well, then this is what that, and then, so I kind of sold myself into it with him asking good questions and playing on my pride.
I love that. And I remember you asked me that same question. I'm like, oh, I'd double my cousin at least. Exactly.
And if someone thinks they're going to be good, they're pretty much always right.
Yeah.
Like the reverse is true too. I've also learned if someone thinks they're not going to be good at it, I don't try to talk them. And they know themselves better.
Totally.
And
And the most competitive people usually dominate too.
Yeah.
And you and I were definitely more competitive.
Correct.
Average Joe out there.
And that's another funny part of this story. So the company I was with, fairly small and didn't have that high of a success rate, but I was fortunate. My cousin was taking this really serious. Like he needed the money. He had put his engagement ring and his honeymoon on a credit card. He needed this summer to work.
Dang.
And so he was all in.
He burned the boats though.
Correct. And he was good. But that made me think, well, I can't let my cousin outdo me. So we were back and forth all summer. And
Where were you selling that first?
it was in
time?
Oklahoma.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's where
so,
you met your wife.
yeah, so yep, it was a good summer. We finished like number 1 and 2 as rookies in the company.
Heck yeah.
Not in the whole company, but as rookies.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I met my wife that summer in the singles ward out there. And
Awesome. Shout out to Maggie.
yes,
She's awesome.
she is. Yep, we've had some good times in Iceland with old Maggie being there. So yeah, so fabulous first summer where I saw what this job could do. That was a long time ago though. Like I know I look like I'm 22, but I'm actually older than that. And so that was almost, probably 17 years ago. So good money for a rookie back then is I probably made shy of 20 grand, but that was still a game changer for me.
Yeah. Was that your freshman year of college? Was
Yeah.
that your first summer? Okay.
Yep. And even after that though, I was like, that was good once. I don't think I'm going to do it again.
Yeah, like that was a one summer, not again. Okay.
But then as the summer got closer and again, I'm like, I'd be stupid not to do this again. So, and then I led a team and that was when things really clicked that I love this. Like I was a pretty good seller, but where I'm in my happy place is when I'm like leading people. That's that's what makes my fire burn, is when I can help someone change their life. And so that next summer and leading a team and really training and getting our team to be really good in the top team, that's when like things clicked. Like, hey, I really like this. So I did that every year through college, and even got to a point where I wasn't knocking anymore, where I was over like 100 plus guys by the time I graduated college.
And this was all satellite. Yeah. Okay. Which was really popular back then, right?
Correct. Yeah. Dish Network and DirecTV were kind of cool things, and then household, and and so that was selling that. But the funny thing is, back then, no one really took it as a career. Like there was the owners. The owners were the only ones that were like old and that were like really doing this long term. And then everyone else was just churn.
Yeah.
And
just sad because I feel like so many people could have such better results and made so much more money if they just had like a 5-year plan.
Correct.
Like not a 20, not a 30, but like a 5-year plan where they actually like go all in, because so many people are like 1 foot in, 1 foot out each summer, and that hurts them. It hurts their people.
Absolutely.
It hurts their ability to lead,
100% agree. And I think that was a big thing for me.
Yeah.
I told you that after my first summer, I wasn't sure if I was going to do it again.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
But when I dove into my next summer and things really clicked, hey, I like this. I can, I'm like, I'm going to do this every summer in college. So then I made like a 3 to 5 year plan.
Yeah, smart.
And I'm all in. But when I got to the end of that, there was still, and I think a lot of people deal with this, is there's always those pressures of people that are just ignorant. Like, when are you going to get a real job? You're still doing summer sales, or you're still doing whatever.
Oh, we love those comments.
Yeah, exactly. But that was part of it. And it was even more so back then. So I, in my mind, thought I'm going to graduate college. I wanted to work in the energy world. My father-in-law, which was one of the richest guys I knew, he was an executive at a big energy company. And I thought, hey, I want to get into that. Energy, there's big money, and if I can work my way up there. So
this isn't a solar pitch, but
correct, different energy. This is oil, natural gas. So I graduated college. I got that interview at the company that I wanted. I got the job offer. And then in considering it, it was a huge pay cut, which I already knew. But I thought, I already knew that and was like kind of content with, okay, that's okay. It's just a path.
Yeah.
But when it was the pay cut and I was looking at the details of where I would have to be living, what my hours would be, what I would be doing each day. And I was like, I don't know if,
because you were controlling your whole schedule.
Correct.
You could live anywhere.
Correct.
Yeah.
And really, too, what it came down to, I called my father-in-law, and I was bringing up some of these concerns with him. Like, I was going to have to work every other Sunday, too, with this entry level. Damn. And that was one of my biggest things, is like, I'm not someone that's ever worked on Sunday. And I'm like, and he explained why. Like, in the energy world, energy never turns off. Like, someone needs to be working. And but I was talking through this, and what he said is really when I'm like, okay. He's like, Tosh, this is a good opportunity. He said, you'll be in this position for probably just 2 years. And if you do really well, you'll get this promotion. And then if you do that for a few years, you'll get this promotion. If you're good at that, you'll get this promotion. And then he ended with, so after 10 years, if you really work your way up, and it was like 5 different advances, he's like, you'll be making $200,000 a year. And at the end of that, I'm like, okay, I could make $200,000 next year.
Right. And you have a clear path to do that.
Correct. And I'm like, I think I like it more.
Yeah.
Like I'm working with people that I love working with reps.
Yeah. I
love the competitive like sports atmosphere and just the competitive nature that summer sales became my new sport. And I love that. And I love teaching people and I can make really good money. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing this route. I'm gonna go full send on summer sales.
Yeah.
And when I made that decision, it was also to find the best opportunity for me.
Yeah.
Which Dave, Royce, and Vest kind of came in and around that same time, and that was no accident. And I'll even throw that out there.
Yeah.
When I was in this pivotal moment, me and my wife were talking about what are we gonna do work-wise. And we both knelt down and said a really sincere prayer that God would like direct me to what I was supposed to do. And I had a real strong answer of a verse in the Book of Mormon that, hey, if it's a lot of times in the Book of Mormon, but the phrase, if you keep the commandments, you shall prosper. Mm-hmm. And I really had that thought, and I told Maggie, hey, that's my impression. We just got to keep the commandments. Things will work out.
Yeah. And everything will line up, yeah.
And we go to bed that night content with that answer. That very next morning, I get a text message that says, hey, Dave Royce is asking about you, and he would love to go to lunch with you. But again,
he's the owner of Aptive, if you guys don't know.
Yeah, the founder, yeah. And my first instinct, and I think this is a good principle to have, was to say no.
Right.
Like, I know I'm focused on, like, I didn't shop around. I didn't shop around. My head was never on a swivel.
Yeah.
But I was texting out no to him. And then I thought, wait a second. I was praying last night for some direction of what I should do work-wise and what's best for me.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm going to text him, hey, I'll meet.
Yeah.
And so, I texted him, and it's fun. It wasn't like a one meeting thing. It took him about a year to like get me to decide, hey, let's make this switch of industries.
Yeah.
I was going to get back on the doors. That took a little bit to work through.
You had to like restart as a rep pretty
changing
much.
Industries. And when I left, I got sued from my old company. So I went from 100 reps to 0 reps.
Wow.
Where I had to just start from scratch.
And you're like, see, Maggie, this is the right plan.
Exactly.
That's wild. So, okay, so much unpacked, so much gold right there. But, okay, so you wrestled in high school, served a mission, came back, started doing sales because you realized like high school's over. This is real life. I got to make big boy decisions now.
Yeah.
And then you start selling and you're pretty good at it right off the bat, but you really find this newfound love of training, recruiting, and leading people.
Totally.
And then you dominate. You kind of have like, hey, I'm at least going to do this while I'm in college. And then, the end of college happens and you get this job offer and you're like, oh, actually, like, I don't want to go do a corporate ladder thing.
Yeah.
Like, I actually can make more like this next year than 10 years at this other gig. And so then you get introduced to Aptive because, Vess and Tosh hit you up. So what is Tosh thinking at this point?
When they hit me up,
I guess like starting in a new industry, like were you nervous?
No, I felt the pressure of that for sure, that I started in a new place. And in the recruiting game, like they thought they were getting someone good.
Yeah.
And I felt like I needed to live up to that. And so, and then when in court, I lost and I wasn't allowed to recruit any of my guys
Yeah.
for 1 year. I definitely felt that pressure. And what I thought of, and I had all the excuses you hear in our industry.
Yeah.
Like I was married, like guys that say they can't recruit. They're like, oh, I'm married. Like I'm not around the right circles anymore.
All my friends are in their corporate jobs.
I had a kid, like all my kids were in their corporate job. I was graduated, you know, I was 26 or 27. Like I had all those excuses, but I'm like, I can't just, I just got to find a way. So what I did is 2 things. One, I thought, hey, I have a lot of experience knocking doors recruiting. And so I'm like, I'm going to knock doors a few hours every day where I'm going to go to apartment complexes and just knock student housing and set up meetings and recruit that way. I'm going to stand outside of campus and recruit that way. So I would track how many hours a week I would do and really hold myself accountable.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And then I also although I wasn't allowed to talk to anybody from that company I just left for a period of time, I still had a lot of contacts that when I tried to recruit at that other company, I didn't get.
Yeah.
So I made a list of those, of people that I knew in the industry that weren't at that company. And I started calling through those. And I had a little, not like huge success with either one, but some success with both, where I was able to recruit one whole team of guys from like cold contacting and working my friend list. And then I was able to get another team through calling people that I knew in the industry. The biggest name of that is a guy named Judd Ray, who I had tried to recruit the year before and he told me no and went with another company. But I called him and worked on him and got him over and he led another team. So I was able to scramble and start that summer with, I don't know, 30 to 40 reps or something and 2 teams.
Scratch. Yeah, that's awesome.
And, but then that's when the fire happened. Like I had a chip on my shoulder too, like to prove myself and to really get revenge on that company that sued me. Cause I was trying to leave a little bit friendly.
Yeah.
And then they made it real crazy.
Did they sue you for trying to take their reps?
Yeah. So they sued me for a non-solicit and a non-compete.
Yeah.
They tried to sue me for a bunch of money.
Yeah.
Without getting into all the details, like I actually still think I should have won.
Yeah.
Like I didn't have a contract that should have held up, but the judge did not rule them any money. But the judge more or less said, hey, with the position you were in, you had so much knowledge that even though, like, I'm going to say, I'm not going to award them any money, but I am going to say, I'm going to give them a 1 year, like, this non-compete, which, but that was worth more to me than the money.
Right. You wanted to go take all your reps.
And I had family there and everything. And the judge is like, it doesn't matter. Like you can't, you can't recruit them. You can't even talk work to them. So for 1 year. So started from scratch, but then I was like, hey, game on now.
Right.
And I threw down. I had my best selling year. I had lots of rookies on my team threw down. Judd threw down.
Did over 400.
Yeah. Like we put up big numbers and I had multiple rookies do over 300. And so when that 1 year ended, we had a lot of momentum, but then I called every single leader at that other company. I literally waited till midnight.
Yeah.
And I remember I was outside, it was like August 21st.
Yeah.
And so I'm still selling, but I waited till midnight that night. And I had my list of guys and I'm just calling guys and just working that. And this is kind of savage, but like 3 months later, that company was out of business and we had all their guys. And then that just rolled to where that next year I was well over 100 guys. And then it just snowballed to where I got to where I was over 400 something guys at Aptive. And I mean, my downline did, just 45,000 accounts.
Just so crazy.
And then from there got promoted to, there was like a team of us running the sales force. And there still is a team of presidents, Donnie Mosier, Kyle Nilsson, Chase, but that now I have the privilege, like I'm kind of the senior president who directs those beasts. And so, I've it's really been a cool path, but now I'm running the whole Salesforce, and I'm pretty flattered and humbled at the same time by that.
Freaking beast. I love that story. Like, you just had this chip on your shoulder, and you had like, you want to go prove yourself, and you just took advantage of it, and you just destroyed. You dominated, right? Like your mirror said. So yeah, Tosh is a freaking baller, like top 0.001%, and he came into Aptive as a rep. It was Altera back then, or maybe even Eco first.
Yeah, I signed with Eco first. That first summer was Altera.
Okay,
yeah.
Heck yeah. And now he's the senior president of sales at that same company, which is crazy. And going back to like your 10-year path at a corporate route to like your 10-year path in door-to-door sales, I'm sure you're glad that you...
Oh yeah. Like I'm not someone to like talk money too much, but 100% it was better for me the summer sales route.
1,000,000%.
From a job satisfaction standpoint, from an impact and I can have and financially, like it's great, and I've been blessed, and it's fun too. I'm not going to lie and act like that money can't be fun, because it can be fun too.
Lots of fun things. Yeah, I feel like money just like opens the door to like more opportunities, and you can truly, you can just become more like, money is like a maximizer. It makes you more of who you already are, and like makes everything better. Yeah.
It does bring challenges though. Like even going full circle to what you were talking about and I was earlier, the challenge with it that I feel a weight on is how do I give my kids the same experience and chance?
I've thought a lot about that, and I don't have any kids yet. But
it's just like, well, I think what your dad did was smart. How you said that you almost grew up on a farm because your dad was just making up random stuff. And I think you kind of have to do that. Like I feel like every parent, no matter your income, you have a responsibility to teach your kids that they can do hard things.
100%.
And sometimes that's harder with money than if you don't have money. They're forced to do hard things. And when you have money, you've got to like be real aware and really tactical about how are you going to make sure your kids learn how to do hard things.
Yeah, I agree, because I think my parents, like my dad always made more than $100,000. Like ever since I can remember, 100, like $1 million a year. And I always knew that. Like, it's not like he was vocal about it, but like they parented us like they were freaking on, what is it called? Like
welfare.
Yeah, like literally, like we saw nothing of their, like none of their money. Like we went to Hawaii on, like I went to Hawaii a few times, but like besides that, they gave us $100 a year for school clothes that we had like to make it last through. You can buy a pair of pants and like maybe a few shirts, but like everything that we had to go earn.
Yeah.
Like we always had to have a job. We always had to like be in sports. We always had to like be busy doing things, and we had to earn everything. And I think that's because I had like a lot of friends that, you know, didn't have that type of parenting. And I think that really helped us.
No, I think you're right.
Be shaped, I guess.
Because my dad, he actually made a decent amount, but the thing is 7 kids.
Oh yeah, that's expensive.
Yeah. And his income really ebbed and flowed with the housing market.
Yeah.
And so there was years and years where, you know, I was wearing Payless shoes and hand-me-downs from cousins. Yeah. And I also think that when I would go to the Jazz game, you know, I was in the top deck. Like there's many games I sat with my back at the back wall. You know, I've sat on that back row.
Yeah, with the backrest.
Yeah. And now, like, it's cool, but it's also a challenge. But no one should feel bad for me, but it was like an emotional moment for me. Last year, we got front row tickets, and now, you know, I get front row tickets to the Jazz game. And when I sat there and I looked at where I used to sit and how different the experience is, it's all fun.
Yeah.
But like, I got like emotional, but it's also now my kids though. My kids go to the Jazz game because I thought maybe I shouldn't take them. It's going to spoil them. But I'm like, well, no, like they have the chance to go.
Right.
I don't want to like artificially like hold my kids back from opportunities. But now that my kids go to a Jazz game on the front row, kids, I feel like I have to be creative and tactical at making sure through, whether it's through sports, through like chores, through hikes, through one thing that you told me years ago that I do with my son now, and it's been helpful, is like key books. Pay him to read when he needs money. It's like, hey, I'll give you $20 if you read this book.
Totally.
And I feel like that's been another kind of quiver, arrow in my quiver of how I can try to instill good principles in my kids.
I love that. And I'm going to need a lot more advice on that as I start having kids here in a few years. But no, I love that. Cause like I really look up to you in a lot of ways, cause you don't just try and dominate like career wise. Like you dominate in your family life from what I've seen. Like you're a great husband, you're a great father, you're great. Like you balance, like not balance, but like you prioritize all the key areas in your life. And I think that's really cool, because a lot of people get so hyper focused on one area, but then they're, sacrificing their family or their relationships with friends or whatever. But I feel like you're like a dog, because you attack every area of your life and do it the best you can.
No, I appreciate that. And that it's sometimes I'm better than that than others, but I think that, and this is weird, but I'm weird and I do this. I think at my funeral, what do I want people talking about?
Yeah.
And I think about that. And I think I want my kids to think, hey, my dad was the freaking best.
Yeah.
But I want my friends to think, hey, Tosh was there for me.
Yeah.
But definitely in work, I want people to say, Tosh was a freaking baller. Like he impacted our industry. He impacted my life through work.
Yeah.
So I think there's lots of places, but there's people that I see that are killing it in business that I still cringe. I'm like, their funeral is going to be a little awkward, because they're freaking douchebags. Like people are not going to be saying good things about. And I feel like that kind of keeps me in check amongst other things. But I do try, and I'm not perfect, and there's plenty of people that'll be sneering at me at my funeral that I should probably send apology letters to.
We all make mistakes.
But that does, I think, kind of give me a guidepost of, hey, what do I want people saying about me at my funeral?
That's really cool. Begin with the end in mind, right?
There you go. Exactly.
Hopefully
it's a wise off.
Yeah,
huh?
way off. We're going to be doing this 20 years from now.
That'd be sweet.
Some things I think a lot of the audience that are probably going to watch this mostly are in door to door, right? So I have some questions that I think people would want to hear from you on. One is like, we've kind of talked about this a little bit, just talking about like your story, but what do you believe makes you different and top level reps different?
And then you've heard me say this 1,000 times, but it really is my answer. I think it breaks down to three things that you've got to be in the top echelon of these three things. One is you've got to become really skilled. Like you've got to train like crazy and become skilled. But that's actually the one that I think is most common because unless you're with a crappy company or you got a crappy leader, but that's becoming more and more rare. Like I feel like most people become skilled, but you gotta perfect your craft. You've got to train in between doors. You got to be thinking, how do I get better? And you got to become one of the most skilled. But again, that a lot of people are that one. The next two, I think, are the big differentiators. You've got to, from a work ethic standpoint, be in the top percentile. Like that, there's no substitute to if someone is talking to 60 decision makers every single day, he's going to do laps around the ones that are just doing 30 every day. And you've got to that one's hard, but every day you've got to become, I'm the hardest worker. And that's my advice to rookies in summer sales is be the hardest worker on your team. Like you can control that. And every day you can look around and you can make sure you're being the hardest worker on your team. And if you are, your odds of success are so crazy high. So like you want to be the hardest worker on your team.
Yeah, because if you're talking to 20 extra people per day, just because you're showing up earlier, staying out later, that's 20 more opportunities each day, to get more sales. And
Correct.
over the course of 100-day summer, like
It's
those
2,000 more interactions. Like it's insane.
Yeah, you're a good math guy. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I kind of like took that and tried to run with it, but 100% agree.
And then the third one is attitude, that life is such a mental game. Absolutely, sales, door-to-door sales is a mental game. Your vibe and the energy you're putting off is so vital. And we could give a whole podcast on this, but it's so important that you find what keeps you in a good frame of mind. And that's different for every guy. Like I've got my things that are really big for me, but everybody's got their different things. But you have to know what are your things that you got to do each day to keep yourself in a good frame of mind. And when you need to be someone that's aware, if you start to get negative, what do you got to do to get yourself back positive? And I think those are the three things. And again, I don't think I'm the best in the industry at any of those three, but I'm high enough up on all three that it just really gets gains. And that's my advice for anybody.
Yeah. And I think you're even better at like instilling that in your reps. And that's why
appreciate that.
That's why number one region. Everything. No, those are money. Next thing I'd ask is like, what advice would you give for rookies that are going out this summer?
I think that beyond what I kind of just said, I think that it's important that they actually just learn to enjoy the process.
Yeah.
That I think so many reps, and the sales world even makes it hard to not do this. They get so focused on the outcome, the outcome of each day, the outcome of each door.
Such a good point. Yeah.
The outcome of the summer. It seems their goal is so formidable.
Yeah.
But you got to just wire yourself to enjoy the process. Take pride and enjoy the training and noticing when you're getting better at something. Yeah. When you're tracking how many decision makers you talk to and feeling happy when you hit that. Like, enjoying the inputs instead of just only focusing on the outputs.
It's like Jeff and Bodie and Casey always say, it's like focus more on the sowing rather than the reaping.
Yeah, totally.
You know, and like so many people are so hyper focused on, you know, the reaping. Oh, I didn't get a sell today. Oh, I'm like behind on my goal this summer. But like, screw that. Like, stop thinking about that. Focus on what inputs am I doing today? What habits am I doing? How much am I training?
Yeah.
What am I actually maximizing the hours, you know, on the doors? Am I eliminating distractions, you know? And like doing those things daily, like if you focus on those sewing, and like it's a success if you control the controllables and you did the work, you did all the inputs that you could have, even if you didn't get a sell that day, it was a success.
Correct.
You're going to go do the same thing tomorrow. And pretty soon you start to stack those inputs, and then you're, you know, driving home from the summer just proud of the man you became and like the results you got, but you focused on the sewing.
Absolutely. And we've both been there. So like that resonates with us, but that if you control what the inputs and you just stack good effort days, it's gonna, whatever happens, you can live with, and it's gonna be good.
Cause so many people like, okay, I'm going to focus on the inputs, you know, and they do for a week.
Correct.
And they don't get the results they want. They're like, well, this doesn't work. Screw this. I'm going home and working my 9 to 5 for the next 40 years.
Yeah, no, it takes a lot of stick-to-itiveness and just really bullheadedness that like, no, I'm going to keep doing this day after day after day after day. And I'm going to show up with a smile again tomorrow.
Right.
And it's, we all say that, and then the summer punches you in the mouth, but you've got to find the place to keep doing that.
Dude, the summer punches you in the mouth is an understatement. It knocks you out a couple times.
Yep.
And you just got to keep getting back up and fighting and controlling those inputs again. And I feel like so much of this job, like you said, is mindset and attitude, and like being able to get rejected 60, 70, 80 times a day and just showing up at that next door with a smile, giving your best fit.
Totally. Because that's just their first interaction.
Yeah.
Like you're only bringing negative energy if you're the one bringing it, you know, like to them, this is still just a fresh chance.
Yeah. Like
so it's fun.
You always say you got to act like you just sold everyone on that street.
Correct.
You know?
Exactly.
And it's really contagious, and people can catch that confidence because sales is really just a transfer of energy. And
Totally.
like, if they can feel like, oh, this guy's positive, he's confident, he seems cool, you know, like they're going to be way more likely to want to listen to you and then ultimately, you know, hand over their credit card.
Absolutely. And it's, I think out of more than any money somebody makes,
Yeah.
that principle of learning to enjoy the process, learning to show up every day, even when it's hard,
Yeah.
showing yourself that you can be that type of person. I think that's worth more
Yeah.
than any money that a rookie makes.
Totally. Yeah.
Like,
mindset, like work ethic. Like if you can do this job, you can truly do anything.
Correct.
And it's like, I think it's the Clemson coach, Dabo Swinney, I want to say.
Yep.
He says, enjoy the suck.
Yeah, it's a good. Yeah.
It's not like that, but it's like, enjoy the hard times, like make the most of it. That's always said, like his quote on Kobe was like, stay in the middle. Don't let the highs get you too high. There's going to be high like selling points in the summer. Don't let the lows get you too low. Like stay in the middle, focus on the inputs rather than the outputs, and you will find success. It's pretty much guaranteed, you know?
Yep.
Another thing I'd say is like, we have to ask you this, like, what's some advice you would give somebody that's going from like a high producing sales rep to like leadership?
It all comes down to the secret ingredient there is you've got to create leaders.
Yeah.
And again, it's a simple phrase, but how do you do that? It starts with, you've got to be someone that only recruits people that you think will do well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the mistakes where people never build is they're signing up anybody to go sell that they can get a yes from.
Yeah.
But they're hiring people they're talking into, hey, maybe this guy can be okay.
Yeah.
Or that person's ceiling is okay. And this is maybe my farm upbringing, but I always say, like, you can't polish a turd into a diamond.
I love that.
Like, you gotta quit hiring turds that like you can talk yourself into they're gonna be okay.
Right.
You gotta find people that could become diamonds. Like, you gotta it starts with hiring people. It's harder. You gotta get better at your job.
Yeah.
But you gotta hire people that could be the top guy on the team. And you hire as many of those as possible, and then you train them and give them a great experience, because that's number one. You've got to, the best way is you got to give them a great experience and show them what a great leader does.
Yeah, by example.
And then you've also, though, got to paint a vision. You got to be in their ear and being authentic and true. And this is what I did with you. Like, if you mean it, you should tell someone, hey, I see big upside in you. Mm-hmm. Never tell that to someone you don't mean it. That's just lying, and it's not good for eitherybody.
Right.
But if you think they could be good at it, you should tell them and help them see their potential.
Yeah.
And then mentor them and train them all the parts of the job, because that's when magic happens, is when you don't even need very many.
Yeah.
If you give me two options and someone's going to finish a summer with 17 just okay guys that are coming back, or someone that has only 7 guys coming back, but 3 of them are ballers and they are ready to recruit and be leaders, I'll take the smaller option every time.
All day.
Because those 3, they can have a whole team and then they can replicate it. And then that's when it just gets huge, where, like, this is kind of weird to say, but I remember when you get that point where I went on a trip to Hawaii, and it was for too long. My wife's family paid for it all. So and it was a family thing. I couldn't say no, but I was gone like 10 days and was stressed the whole time I was away from work. And I came back and I had more guys signed than when I left.
Thanks to Gage.
Exactly. And I remember, like, okay, this is what it's about. Like, you've got to find leaders. You've got to train them to do what you can do.
Give them the vision.
And then it just, it goes. And it really, that's my favorite part of this job, is that I can help change people's lives for the better.
It's the best.
And that them becoming leaders is the real pivot point. Like that. And so it's something that everyone in this industry should be passionate about, is how do I give this person the tools that someone gave me that they can change their life and they can be a leader. And that's also the key to really growing.
Wow. Guys, go rewind that. Freaking fire. No, so good, because I feel like, I mean, that's what you did with me. You know, you took maybe a turd.
No, you were good.
No, but like you really helped me develop and grow as a salesman, and then a recruiter, trainer, leader, and I'm still like a work in progress on that front. But and I remember you used to say, Gage, go bring me all the wrestlers you can find. Go bring me the top, like the guys that you think could be the top rookie on the team, because those are the people that are going to benefit the most from this job. And I feel like just kind of reflecting on like your leadership style and stuff. And I feel like I'm so lucky to have been brought in the industry when I did with you, with where you were at and the experience that you had already had, because you brought me in and you believed in me, which was like the first thing. Well, you believed, and you believed in me. You painted the vision of who I could become after my first summer, and you held me to a really high standard, and you loved me. And like, or you did a really good job at making
Appreciate
it seem like
no.
you did, right?
No, I did.
No,
yeah.
And I love you too. And I think that like that totally, like having that totally is what was the difference for me versus most people that come through the doors, or of this industry and try it 1 year and, don't succeed. Because looking at it, it's like there's nothing different between me and like a lot of my friends that have come into this industry. And I think it really matters like who your leader was, like what kind of like determining of like what kind of experience you had that summer.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I'll give you another kind of echoing that, some tangents on that. One is I think that you really want to be someone that actually cares.
Yeah.
And a lot of leaders, they like pretend like they care.
Right.
But you should actually care. Like, and again, this is kind of getting a little religious, but I mean this, and I want to be authentic, is that you should be the leader that's actually praying for your people.
Yeah. Rubbing their feet.
Yeah. And that you're praying that you'll find the right people that this job will help. And then when you get them, you should act like that and really be all in. And how do I help this person? It's not always going to pan out, but you want to make sure it wasn't because of you it didn't pan out.
Right.
And then the other thing I remind myself, and I tell this to me to try to be a better husband, and then I take the same principle to try to be the best leader, is when I first got married, I had to pursue my wife quite a bit. There were some other guys chasing her, and she was playing hard to get. And when I finally kind of got her to be into me and got her to marry me, I remember feeling like, hey, she could have married anyone in this whole world. Yeah. And she chose to hitch her wagon to me. So like financially, she hitched her wagon to me for social life, for fun, for future, for who her father of her kids are going to be. Like she chose me. I got to live up to that. Like I got to show her that she made the right choice. Those other guys were freaking losers compared to me. And that really pushed me.
That's cool.
And that same principle I tell myself with recruits, that this poor college guy, that a lot of these guys have no money in their bank account.
Right.
And that this summer could change their life for the better.
Forever.
Or if it fails, it can wreck a lot of them. It takes a long time to get out of that. And out of the whole industry, there's so many options. If they choose to work for me, and if I talk them into working for me,
you better deliver.
I better deliver. Out of the whole world, they chose me.
Yeah.
And so I better be all in. I better be present. I better do everything I can
to help them.
That they made the right choice choosing me. And I think that with that mindset has really pushed me to do the late night trainings, to answer the late night phone calls, to actually sincerely care, because they chose me, so I better back that up.
You guys can tell why while he's the number one at Aptive. Vess's right-hand man, right?
No, I don't know about that, but I like old Vessy.
No, it's totally true, and I'm like so grateful that I'm learning that, and it's so fun too, because like having success, making money, investing, like growing, is really cool. But what's even cooler, like I'm feeling this now, is like helping your friends, your family, your cousin, like go learn a skill set that makes them, economically self-reliant.
Correct.
And not just that, like the confidence, the skills, like you can totally, like Casey Baugh always says this, is like, business is a spiritual game. And like you really do have an opportunity as a leader to go change someone's life for the better.
Totally. It's cool.
It's freaking cool. And I love it. And that's why I'm still in it, because there's not very many jobs or like places I feel like where you can really, you have that type of opportunity. And like most people squander it. And most people I feel like don't really realize how big of an impact, how big of an impact they can truly make.
Totally.
Because like you've changed my life. You've changed, I know, freaking hundreds of others just because of your example, your leadership, and, you know, just the qualities and values you embody. So
no, appreciate it. And you've been a big impact on me. Like you were, when I hired you, you were the young 18-year-old phenom. And I think that there was a lot of, like, you should never be, even though I was much older than you, I was still humble and realized there was a lot I could learn from you, and did. And even that summer, it's just unique that I sold that summer, because I had not sold for a long time. And then my youngest brother got back from his mission, and I went out and sold for a couple months, and you were out there, and
that was
and
awesome.
You were balling, and I thought, man, I got to try to keep up with Gage here. And
dude, every day my goal was to beat Tosh.
There we go. Like, and I mean, I was competing with you.
From the time that you started in your 2-month summer, I'm like, I'm going to sell more than him from the time he starts and the time he finishes. And luckily, like, you helped a ton with that, with your trainings and stuff. I guess one last question, like if somebody was listening to this then wanted to be more like Tosh, what's some advice that you would give somebody? I
mean, that's kind of a loaded question. I don't know. Like, I don't, first shave your head. That's step one. Like, I don't know what I would say to that, and kind of answer maybe a different question. I think that you want to be somebody that, and this is true on the doors, this is true in recruiting, this is true in all things, that money is not worth feeling bad about. It's just really not. And so you want to be somebody that finds a path where you can be passionate and good at something, but you still want to be someone that you can feel good about it. And everyone's got their own way of that, and I'm not perfect at what I do, but I do appreciate, like, in our industry and door to door, there's a lot of sleaze, but there are a lot of good people. And I really respect the ones that are good at their job and are doing it in a way where I think they could feel good about it, and I observe and I know they can feel good about it. And so that would be my answer, that I'm trying to be better at, and that I would challenge everyone in our industry to try to be better at.
Beautiful. Couldn't have said it better. That was awesome. Any last tips from Tosh while we got him here?
I mean, other little plugs I would make is invest in real estate. I think that you make good money, but you want to buy stuff that's going to continue to make you money and give you financial and time freedom. I think that's a plug I would make. I would also say, I think one thing we haven't hit on that is worth noting, you can't recruit, well, I shouldn't say can't, but it's very uncommon that someone will ever get recruited by someone that they don't look up to.
Yeah.
And when you understand it from that angle, and I know I'm that way, I would never get recruited by somebody that I didn't look up to, or said a different way, that I kind of was like, I want to be like this person.
Yeah, totally.
So from the other lens, as a recruiter, if I want to not recruit turds and I want to recruit people that can be diamonds, I have to level up. I have to look at the aspects of my life and how do I level up to be the best I can be. And I think that you got to do that on a physical level, on a spiritual level, on a social level, and on a financial level. Totally. And that's always been something that I set goals in those 4 categories. And I challenge my leaders, because if I want my leaders to recruit good people, they've got to become the best they can be.
Right.
Because that actually opens up more people they can recruit and better quality. And that's something that I think that if people focused on in our industry, it would raise all the ships. As they improve themselves, they can recruit better talent.
100%. And that's honestly why I started the podcast, because I know how much of an impact that helped me on my journey selling as becoming a leader and investor. And it's like always like you grow or die.
Correct.
And like trying to become the best version of yourself is going to make ripple effects on every single person,
Yep.
you know?
And it doesn't mean you're perfect, but
right.
people just want to be around people that are trying to level up. And so in your pursuit of trying to level up, you attract people that want to do that too. And that's who you want to attract.
100%. 100%. Wow. Yeah, that's absolutely true. And gold. Go watch this whole podcast again 5 times over because that was fire. No, and on real estate too, because like you definitely opened that like idea in my mind of like, hey, I should go use this money to go invest in real estate. And yeah, like
look at you now. You're killing it.
Now. No, I still not where I want to be, but like for sure, that's huge. And like you taught me to be smart with my money. You taught me like, hey, here's like great job this summer. Here's your back end, but like, what's your plan to go, you know, turn that into more through real estate or other investments. So again, like such an impact. Tosh Mackintosh, he's the GOAT. If somebody wanted to like get connected with you or like kind of follow you more on your journey, where would they go?
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Instagram, and there's not many Tosh Mackintoshes out there. I think I'm probably the only one on Instagram, so that would be the first place. And I'm on Twitter too, but on Twitter, I'm mostly just, I'm a big BYU fan, and I'm mostly just trolling Utah fans on Twitter.
Let's go.
So if they want that side of me, Twitter. But if they want like sales and Family Guy Tosh, Instagram.
Heck yeah. Well, appreciate it again for you coming on.
Thanks for having me on. Always a pleasure to be around you, Gage.
Hey, you too. We gotta do this again in a few months.
Sounds good.
Yeah. But thanks again, everyone, for watching. If you guys did get value from today, go like it, go rate it, go share it with someone that you think would benefit. Go give Tosh a follow on Instagram. This guy, who he is now, freaking animal. Just imagine 5-10 years from now, gonna continue to dominate in all walks of life. So yeah, go like and share this. And thanks for tuning in today. And we'll see you guys next time.